I never thought I'd be the guy posting about this kind of mess, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I've been married to Sarah for about 5 years now. We had a good run, or so I thought. She's always been a little bitchy, quick to snap, always with some excuse, yet I believed she loved me. Or at least I wanted to believe that. We were working on a big project together, me finishing my memoir and her helping with some editing. We seemed fine, or so I thought. It started with little things. Small oddities. She'd be secretive about her phone, hiding it when I came into the room, but I shrugged it off. I told myself maybe she was just being cautious because of her work stuff. She's a literary editor, so she's always got deadlines, edits, sensitive conversations with clients. But then little things changed. She started coming home late more often, saying she was out with friends, but I'd catch her in her lies. She'd say she was at the gym, then I'd find out she hadn't been to the gym in weeks. I noticed her texts, her social media activity, nothing overt but enough to make me suspicious. One night I came home early from work, something I rarely do, and I caught her, not in the act but in the act of lying. She was on her phone, typing furiously, and when I walked in she froze. The look she shot me was like a dagger. I asked her what she was doing and she just rolled her eyes, said she was talking to her sister. Yeah, right. I looked over her shoulder and there were messages, nothing explicit at first glance, but I could tell it was more than just friendly chat. They were discussing stuff that was definitely inappropriate, intimate even. She was talking about meeting up, about how hot she looked, how much she was craving sex, and all that shit. That was the moment everything crumbled. I felt this cold punch in my gut. I couldn't believe it. My wife, the woman I trusted, was cheating on me with my own editor, someone I trusted to help me tell my story. It wasn't just some fling. These messages were detailed, explicit, and ongoing. I saw the exchange discussing our upcoming chapter revisions, which she'd been working on with him. Stuff she never told me about. They were sneaking around, talking about getting together after hours, sharing explicit photos, all while pretending to be normal. I was stunned. I went numb for a second, then the anger hit hard. How could she lie so blatantly? How could she betray me like this, right under my nose? I didn't even confront her then. I just backed out of the room, my mind racing. I needed to think. I needed to process what I'd just seen. This wasn't just a small betrayal. This was everything I believed in shattered. My wife, my partner, was messing around with someone I trusted implicitly, and she didn't even bother to hide it anymore. The shock was unbearable, but beneath that, a growing fury started to form. I knew I had to do something, but I wasn't sure what yet. All I knew was that my world had just flipped upside down. The next morning was the worst. I got up early, before she even woke up, and sat in the living room with my phone in hand. I couldn't stop thinking about those messages, the way she'd lied about everything, her excuses, her fake smiles, the way she acted. Like she was so innocent. And then I remembered the little things she'd said over the past few weeks, the tiny inconsistencies I'd ignored. It all clicked into place. She'd been hiding something from me, and now I knew exactly what it was. I started digging through her phone more carefully, searching for anything I'd missed. It didn't take long before I found more proof. Hidden in a folder she thought was secure, there were photos, explicit ones, no doubt taken during moments she thought I'd never see. I felt my stomach turn just looking at them. She'd been sending these to him, probably every chance she got. The worst part was how shameless she was about it. She'd even sent messages about how hot she looked when she was clearly trying to seduce him, how much she was sex-starved and needed something exciting. I also found a string of deleted messages, but I'd taken screenshots. The way she talked about how she'd never felt this alive, how she was finally getting what she wanted, and the way she lied about how nothing going on. She was trying to cover her tracks, but she'd slipped big time. I saw the dates, the times, the little details that confirmed she'd been cheating on me during the same period she'd been acting weird and distant. I was furious, but I also felt betrayed. Not just by her cheating, but by the fact that she'd been so good at hiding it. I'd trusted her with my life, with my stories, with everything. And she'd been screwing around behind my back, making plans with this guy while pretending everything was fine. I could feel the anger boiling up, a mix of hurt and rage. I wanted to yell, to scream, to break something. but I held it in, trying to stay calm so I could think clearly. That's when I decided I had to confront her. I couldn't keep pretending like I didn't know. I needed the truth from her mouth, no matter how much it hurt. So I sat her down later that day, calmly but coldly. I told her I knew everything, about the messages, the photos, the lies. Her face went white for a second, then she started crying, fake tears, I could tell. She spat out some bullshit about how she was stressed, how it was just sex, how she didn't mean for it to happen. She lied and lied the same way she always did, spinning some tangled web of excuses about how she was unsatisfied, how I'd been distant, how I'd failed her. It made me sick. Her words were hollow, her tears fake, and I saw right through her. She kept insisting it was nothing serious, that it was just a mistake, but her face told me everything I needed to know. It was more than just a mistake. It was a full-blown betrayal, a slap in the face after everything we'd shared. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut, like I'd been hit with a ton of bricks, and for a while I just sat there, speechless. She kept begging me not to make a big deal out of it, to forgive her, but I couldn't. I knew it was over at that moment. No matter how much she cried, how much she lied, I couldn't unsee what I'd seen. I realized I was at a crossroads, whether to forgive her and try to work through it, or to cut my losses and walk away. But deep down, I knew I couldn't stay. Not after this. Not after finding out she'd been banging my editor, someone I trusted. That betrayal cut way too deep. I felt so many things: anger, sadness, disgust, but mostly I felt numb. Because I knew that from this point on, my life was never going to be the same. After that confrontation, everything changed. I felt like I was walking around in a fog. My mind kept replaying her lies, her fake tears, the explicit messages, the photos. It was like some sick nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. All I wanted was to understand how she could do this to me, to us. How she could look me in the eye and lie so effortlessly. I started noticing all the small things she did afterward. How she'd be overly defensive, how she'd lash out at me for simply asking questions. She called me paranoid, accused me of going through her stuff, and told me I was overreacting. Her bitchiness was on full display, deflecting, lying, spinning stories. She tell me I was crazy, that I was imagining things, that I was jealous for no reason. But I knew the truth. I saw the messages. I saw her trying to justify her affair, trying to paint herself as the victim. I didn't want to get into a screaming match every day. I knew I had to think about what I wanted to do, how I wanted to handle this. I decided I'd give her one more chance to tell the truth, just one honest confession, then I'd decide my next move. I told her calmly, "You're going to tell me everything, you're not going to lie anymore. I deserve that much." Her eyes darted around and she tried to deny it again, but I had proof. I handed her the screenshots, the photos, the logs. Her face crumpled. She finally broke, and for the first time I saw the real her, the bitchy, manipulative side that I'd missed, hidden beneath her facade of innocence. She started spinning new lies, saying it was just sex, nothing serious, that she didn't mean for it to go so far. She claimed she was stressed out, that she was missing something, that she was just trying to feel alive. I listened, my heart pounding with rage and heartbreak. I wanted to scream at her, tell her how much I hated her, how much she destroyed what we had. But I kept my cool, just enough to hear her out, because I knew I'd need the facts for whatever came next. The thing that shook me most was how she kept lying, pushing her version of events like some twisted fantasy. It was like she enjoyed twisting the knife. She played the victim card, saying I was the bad guy for not giving her enough attention, for being distant, for not satisfying her. All bullshit. I'd been supportive, patient, trying to make things work, and she was busy screwing around behind my back, then trying to make herself out to be the innocent party. That made me furious. I wanted to break something, to lash out. But instead, I took a deep breath and decided I needed a plan, a way to end this once and for all. In those moments, I realized the betrayal cut so deep because I'd trusted her with everything. My dreams, my feelings, my life. And she just threw it all away for some affair with my editor, someone I'd trusted, someone I'd confided in about. My work, the thought made me sick. I'd poured my soul into writing that memoir, and now it felt like she'd used it as a weapon against me. I knew I couldn't stay. Not anymore. This wasn't just about the affair itself. It was about respect, about dignity, about knowing that the woman I loved had lied to my face and cheated on me with someone I worked with, someone I'd considered a friend. So I decided I'd have to make a choice. I didn't want her to think she could just come back and pretend it never happened. I wanted her to understand that her actions had consequences. I wasn't going to be a doormat. I needed to think about what I was going to do, whether to confront her further, to throw her out, or to just walk away. I felt a strange mixture of relief and dread, knowing that I was finally facing the truth, no matter how ugly. This betrayal was a wake-up call, and I knew I'd never look at her the same way again. That night I didn't sleep. My mind was racing with everything I'd uncovered. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that I couldn't just let this slide. Her lies, her manipulations, they'd gone on for too long. I was furious with myself for ever trusting her, for ever believing she loved me. The image of her lying, sneering, trying to justify her affair kept replaying in my head. I felt this gnawing need to do something to make her pay for betraying me. The next day I started planning. I wanted her to see that I knew everything, every secret message, every explicit photo. I decided I'd confront her again, but this time more forcefully. I wanted her to understand that I wasn't going to be some pushover anymore, that I was done playing nice. I set up an email account under a fake name, and I started gathering all the evidence I could find. I printed out screenshots of the messages, saved videos and photos, and made a detailed list of timelines. I also traced some of her online activity, noting times she was online with him. I knew I had enough to ruin her if I wanted to. Then, around midday, I confronted her again. I told her I knew about the photos, the messages, everything. Her face twisted into that familiar sneer, trying to deny, trying to gaslight me. She said I was overreacting, that it was just sex, that I was crazy for suspecting her. But I pulled out the printed evidence, laid it on the table, and watched her realize I was serious. Her eyes flickered with panic, then she started spinning her usual web of lies, trying to minimize the damage. She claimed she was just curious, that she needed something different, and that it was nothing serious. I didn't buy it, not anymore. I told her she was full of shit. I told her I wasn't going to be manipulated anymore. I told her I'd had enough of her bullshit, that I was done pretending everything was okay. I said she'd crossed a line and I was done being her fool. But I also told her that I wasn't planning to stay in a marriage that was built on lies and betrayal, that I was going to leave her, either immediately or after I sorted all this out. Her reaction, she got angry. Started yelling, calling me paranoid, accusing me of spying on her. That's when I knew she thought she could lie her way through it all, that she could manipulate me into staying. But I was done. I told her to pack her bags, that I wanted her out of the house now, that I didn't want to see her face again until she was honest and took full responsibility for everything she'd done. She tried to fight, to beg, to manipulate me into changing my mind, but I shut her down. I told her she had no right to ask for anything from me anymore. That day I packed my things, moved into the spare room, and started the process of disconnecting from her. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done. I'd loved her once, thought she was my soulmate, but now I saw her for what she really was, a liar, a cheat, someone I couldn't trust anymore. The betrayal cut so deep I wondered if I'd ever recover, but I also knew I had to do what was right for me. I couldn't stay in a relationship rooted in deceit. I had to reclaim my dignity, my sanity. And so I started thinking about the future, about how to heal and move on, about how some things, no matter how much you love, just aren't worth the pain. I learned that sometimes the truth hurts like hell, but it's better than living under a lie. That sometimes you have to let go of the person you thought you knew to save what's left of yourself. This might be the worst betrayal I've ever experienced, but it's also a wake-up call. And I'm determined to rebuild, one way or another. The days that followed were a whirlwind. I was in a daze, caught between anger, heartbreak, and a strange sense of relief. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind, trusting her, thinking she was the love of my life. Now I saw her for what she really was, a selfish, manipulative woman who'd thrown everything away for a quick fix of excitement. The worst part was knowing she'd lied to my face, played the victim when she was the one screwing around. That realization hit hard, But I kept telling myself it was better to see the truth now than forever live in denial. I started packing up my things, trying to keep it as clean and calm as possible. I wanted to leave without drama, but I knew I couldn't trust her to behave rationally. She had this way of turning everything around, making me look like the bad guy while she played the victim. I had to be careful. I also reached out to a couple of friends, people I knew I could trust, to talk things through. I needed someone to listen, to tell me I wasn't crazy for feeling this way. Most of all, I needed perspective. During those conversations, I realized how much I'd sacrificed trying to keep our marriage afloat. I'd done everything I could, worked late, tried to communicate, been patient, but none of it mattered to her. She was just fine cheating behind my back, hiding her secret life. I felt so stupid for not seeing the signs sooner, but I also knew I had to focus on myself now. I had to find a way to move past the betrayal and rebuild my life, even if it hurt like hell. The hardest part was breaking the news to my family and close friends. I told them everything, and their reactions were mixed. Some were furious on my behalf, calling her trash and telling me I deserved better. Others looked at me with pity, saying I was too good for someone like her. I appreciated the support, but I also felt ashamed. Ashamed that I'd let it get this far, ashamed that I'd trusted someone so manipulative. Still, I knew I had to stay strong. I had to find my way out of this mess and learn from it. I decided I wouldn't rush into anything new. I needed time to heal, to process, to figure out what I really wanted. But deep down, I knew I'd never forget what she did. The images, the lies, the betrayal, it would stay with me for a long time. But I also knew I couldn't let it define me. I had to rebuild my confidence, my trust in myself. I started focusing on my work again, pouring my energy into finishing the memoir I'd been working on. Writing became my therapy, my way of dealing with the pain. One thing I learned from all this is that betrayal cuts deep, but it also teaches you a lot about who you are. I realized I'd been too trusting, too eager to see the best in people. Now I see the importance of boundaries, of standing up for myself, and never ignoring those little gut feelings that tell you something's wrong. I still feel angry sometimes, still wonder how she could do this after everything we'd been through. But I also feel a strange sense of liberation, like I've finally taken the first step toward reclaiming my life. It's not easy, but I know I'll get through it, one step at a time. Looking back, I realize that this whole nightmare taught me some hard lessons about trust and self-respect. I used to think that love was enough, that if you just tried hard enough, you could fix anything. But now I see that sometimes love isn't enough when the foundation has been poisoned by lies and betrayal. That woman I married, Sarah, she played me for a fool and I let her. Not anymore. I've learned that you have to protect yourself first, set boundaries, and never ignore the warning signs, no matter how much you want things to work out. Since then, I've focused on rebuilding my life. I threw myself into my writing, finished my memoir, something I'd been struggling with for years, and it feels like a huge weight has been lifted. I also started reconnecting with old friends, spending more time outside and rediscovering what makes me happy outside of the chaos. It's not easy. The betrayal left scars, and sometimes I still wake up with a sinking feeling, wondering if I missed signs earlier or if I could have done something differently. But I remind myself that I did everything I could, and sometimes people just aren't who they pretend to be. I don't regret exposing her, even if it hurt like hell. I want others to know, if you're in a relationship and your gut is telling you something's wrong, listen to it. Don't ignore the warning signs, don't brush off your feelings just to keep the peace. Because eventually everything comes out, whether you want it to or not. And it's better to face the truth than to live in denial, pretending everything's fine when it's not. To anyone going through something similar, trust me, you're not alone. It's going to hurt. You'll feel betrayed, humiliated, angry. Those feelings are normal, but you owe it to yourself to get out of that toxic situation and rebuild. Don't let someone else's betrayal destroy you. Use it as a lesson, learn to trust yourself more, and remember that your worth isn't defined by how someone treats you. I'm still healing, still trying to trust again, but I know I'm stronger now. I've come out the other side battered but wiser. Life keeps going, and I refuse to let this ruin me. I still believe in good people and true love, just not that woman anymore. I've got a long road ahead, but I'm finally walking it on my own terms. And that's the biggest lesson I could have ever learned. Self-respect is worth more than any betrayal, and sometimes the best revenge is simply living well after someone tries to destroy you.